That's a pretty cool gate. Designs for this are usually based on triple piston extenders and hence move the door up just 3 blocks. Now to me, moving a big door up just a short distance to open it just doesn't cut it. So I set out to design my own system. The result is crazy and complex and I love it. Prepare yourself for a mad redstone build. Ready? Let's go. To open the door, a flying machine pushes sand along. Sticky pistons grab the closest layer of sand and regular pistons push that layer up with just the right timing. Above the door there is also a row of pistons that move the fence gates to the side as this goes on. After all the sand has been moved, the flying machine gets sent back, one of the piston rows gets disabled and the sticky pistons get pulsed periodically so that the sand has time to fall between pulses and everything gets pushed back into place. To close the door, the system is similar. Pistons move the fences downward as a flying machine pushes them along and the machine gets sent back at the end as well. After the button is pressed and the doors start opening or closing, any additional button presses are ignored for a certain period of time to prevent breaking of the system. The button is also used for both the open and close actions and alternates between the two. In the block by block tutorial, I'm only going to be building one slice that actually moves the fence gates itself. The other slices are just exactly the same, only with slime blocks and honey blocks alternating. This is 7 wide. This is also what I demonstrated in the castle. You could go all the way to 11 wide if you wanted here. If you would have to go wider, you would have to add some repeaters to make sure you have enough signal strength, and I haven't tested yet, so I'm not sure. These are the materials for the 7 wide variant. Not too exotic, pause the video if you need to make a shopping list. Note that you need 2 stacks of obsidian, that's very important. You could take any kind of gravity block instead of the sand, and the fence gates you can replace with whatever you like the look of as well. Doesn't even have to be fences, could be regular blocks as well. So let's start actually building the castle gate. First you need to determine what the bottom of the gate will be when it is in its closed position, and once you have done that, leave 3 air spaces below it and place an upward facing regular piston, and just above that a sideways facing sticky piston. Behind the sticky piston place some obsidian in a formation like this, and next to the regular piston place 7 obsidian blocks in a line. Right next to this you'll build your flying machine, which is an observer that is facing in that direction, into a sticky piston, into 2 slime blocks with another obsidian block behind. This obsidian block is here to stay. This one is a temporary block to hold this thing in place while we work so it doesn't fly off accidentally when we trigger this observer. I've had that happen many times and it is very annoying. At the bottom, at the moment, just place a target block below the regular piston and an obsidian block straight below that, and next to that a building block with some redstone dust on top of that, as well as some redstone dust on this obsidian block. Next, place 9 fence gates on top of each other, and next to the top one place a target block, above that 2 regular pistons in this orientation, and next to the top one a sideways facing sticky piston. Next to the target block place a redstone dust. I've placed it on top of a slab because the door will be below here, so that gives some extra room for decoration, but that could be a regular block as well. And place some obsidian blocks around your piston in this formation, and on top of these blocks place a redstone dust. Move over to the side and start building your flying machines for the top here. Make sure the bottom of the flying machine is in line with this piston. That is very important, and it is exactly above the flying machine below, so that is a good check of whether you have placed it in the right spot. On this side, again, an obsidian block, I forgot to mention, place a redstone dust on top of that. That will be used to trigger the flying machines in due time, and place furnaces to block the flying machine in. That will save you some digging out time if you build this in survival, so you don't have to dig away temporary obsidian blocks. Furnaces hold them in place as well. To connect the redstone of the opening mechanism, place a 1-tick repeater going into the most bottom redstone dust like so. This slab with dust on top of it into a target block and into a redstone torch with another block above it with some dust on top of it. 2 redstone dust over here to connect both things, and then run a redstone line all the way up top. It doesn't really matter how you do this, just make sure that you have enough signal strength, and I have a 3-tick delay in total of repeaters here, and lead it into the redstone dust that you've placed previously. We should be able to test this now. These things flip at the same time, and the top one extends as well. Yeah, that seems to work. Straight below your flying machines, leave a 1-block gap and build a hopper clock like so. You have 2 hoppers that face into each other, comparators that read the amount of items in the hoppers. That goes into a block with a redstone dust next to it on both sides. Now place pistons next to this on the side of all your redstone. Make this a sticky piston with a redstone block attached to it. On the other side, make it a regular piston. Inside these hoppers, there's 5 items. That determines how quickly this clock rotates. In the hopper that is not on the sticky piston side, place another comparator going out of it straight into a default delay repeater. Run a redstone line under everything straight into these few redstone components. There's an observer here that will be observing the sand going by. Place it sort of diagonally offset from the obsidian block there. There is 1 over a sideways sticky piston. This will push as it gets a redstone signal, will push this block in front of the observer so the redstone signal can go through, and that goes into this line that you connect up with the previous redstone that you installed. Note the 2-tick delay repeater here. We should be able to test this as well. Yeah. So that seems to work just fine. Below the bottom target block and pistons, build another hopper clock, the exact same orientation as this one over here, only shifted over and downwards a little bit. And instead of 5 items, this one has 8 items in it. Note that where I told you to place a regular building block with a redstone dust on top of it at the first part, replace that with a slab so it doesn't interfere with any of this redstone. Outside of the sticky piston here of the clock, place a redstone dust and a observer facing the other way, and a sticky piston next to that. From that, run a redstone line, connect it up to the furthest block of your first clock. Use a comparator and a 4-tick repeater to read and boost the signal. We should be able to test this now as well. If we fire this, and if that clock is done, this one should get triggered. This is actually for the return system, so the sand gets pushed back with this. We'll get back to this, but it's just easier to build it in this order because otherwise it will be hard to see. Next, branch off the first redstone line that you placed coming out of your clock and lead the redstone line into a comparator fader circuit. Place this on top of slabs, by the way, as well as not to interfere with any of the redstone below. Outside of this circuit, place a 1-tick delay repeater into an observer. Behind that observer, there is a redstone dust and a 2-tick delay repeater leading into the previously placed redstone. This circuit is in place so that it's pulsed once first to make some room for the flying machines to start pushing the blocks, otherwise they would get stuck. For the last redstone line, from the line that connects into this piston, lead a line to the start of your flying machine, and in that line I have 3 repeaters, 2 on 4-tick delay and 1 on 3-tick delay. It doesn't matter where they are exactly placed. We should now be able to test this. Yeah, that actually seems to work just fine. Obviously it won't return yet, and I removed the furnaces before doing this test, but that seems to work fine. For now, you just have to reset the sand by hand, but let's install the automatic return system. Go to the second redstone clock that you built, and outside again of the hopper that is not on the sticky piston side, place a comparator going out into a 4-tick repeater. Lead that signal into a comparator clock. This comparator is set to subtract mode, and these two repeaters are facing in the other direction and have a 4-tick and 2-tick delay respectively, and connect this up into a building block with a sticky piston with another building block up top, and then an observer going into the redstone just above the redstone torch, or going into the block just above the redstone torch rather. Also lead the signal upwards on slabs as not to interfere with the redstone below, and into the target block as well using another 1-tick repeater. If we test it again now, we should see the sand go up and come down again. Beautiful. Now on to the top. First of all, replace your furnace again that you may have removed after the previous test. Then leave a 1 space gap and build another redstone clock exactly the same as the one below, also with 5 items in it this time. Again, from the hopper on the non-sticky side, run out a comparator into a 1-tick delay repeater, run a redstone line down to the same level as the bottom half of your flying machine into another 1-tick delay repeater, and alongside going through 2 more repeaters, 1 4-tick and 1 3-tick. And after testing, I discovered that the use of full blocks here actually interferes with the flying machines. I did not realize that. So replace them with slabs like so, basically everything that is above the 1 block air gap above the flying machines, and you should be fine. Quite a bit going on in the next bit of redstone, but it all works together to create the system that pushes the fences down as the flying machine pushes them horizontally. From the line that goes off to trigger the flying machines, run it into, I should look at it from this side, run it into a sideways sticky piston that will push a block behind an observer, and that observer is looking at the first horizontal fence, like so. From behind there, I'll remove this block so you can see, from behind the block behind the observer, run a redstone line into the obsidian block with the redstone dust that you placed all the way at the beginning. I'll replace this block again as it cuts the connection between this other bit of redstone, which runs from the full block above the sticky piston into another comparator fader circuit, this time with 4 comparators, 2 going in each direction, and from that go into a 1-tick delay repeater into a block. On top of that block there is a redstone again running into the obsidian block that you placed all the way at the start, and below this building block there is a sticky piston and an observer facing towards the front. We should now be able to test this, so as we push this button we should see the flying machine get triggered and push all the fence gates down, actually completing the basic functionality of the gate. It can now, if you add more layers, you can open and close it. The rest is just so that one button triggers the whole system. The redstone to trigger everything with a button starts, of course, with a button. It doesn't really matter where you place this, just place it close by, but leave enough room from your existing redstone. Behind the button, place a 1-tick delay repeater through a building block into this wavy redstone that goes into more repeaters that go into more building blocks. These are offset. This is actually what will determine whether the gates will be opening or closing. Above these 3 building blocks there are downwards facing sticky pistons branch off of your redstone all the way at the start into an upwards facing sticky piston with on top of that observer looking away from the redstone. You can see its little face here. And this redstone on top is placed on slabs that runs over the sticky pistons. This is actually what will block additional inputs when we test it now. So the block is moved out of the way, so if we press it again, the redstone doesn't have anywhere to go. Note that this repeater is not facing that direction, but that is so that this piston does not trigger the swapping. We'll do that later. To accept additional button presses after a while, we add another hopper clock just like the ones we added before. In this one there is 16 items, and we connect the wavy redstone line through a 1 tick delay repeater into the block on the sticky side. This is so the clock gets triggered when we press the button. On the other side of the clock you place a redstone torch on top of the block, above that a sticky piston and an observer facing towards the front. Behind this observer is a redstone line that leads straight into the same redstone line that we saw previously that runs over the downwards facing sticky pistons. So if we test this now, it gets blocked, the clock is triggered, and after a short while we should see those two swap and the system get reset. Yeah, that works fine. And the last step is to tie the button redstone to the other systems that we've already installed. You do that by going to the both of the downwards facing sticky piston that alternate, and from one of them run a redstone line downwards. It doesn't matter how you do this, as long as you make sure that there is enough redstone power to reach the clock below your flying machines. This is the block that we had the button on to test earlier. And from the other building block, just run a redstone line up. Same deal, make sure there is enough power. It goes into the block that has the button, had the button on. And we are able to test it now. This should start pushing it up. Beautiful, the sand gets pushed back. After a while we get the system is released again. Beautiful. If you want some sort of indicator on whether you can press the button, go to this redstone torch, run a redstone line out of it into a lamp that you place in your wall, and that should do it. Now all that's left to do for you is add additional slices, as many as you want to complete the gate. I've already built the second one. If you need a refresher, just go back to the first steps of the tutorial, because that's where you built the first slice and it's just a repeat of that. And of course, what is still left to do is decorating this, making sure all the redstone is nice and hidden and lit up. You don't want to come across creepers here, of course. Now, when building, do be careful of what you place next to pistons. I've had some blocks interfere. Since it's a big gate, you can get away with making a big castle anyway, so I'm sure you'll figure something out there. I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I hope that all the steps were clear and that you're going to use this to build awesome castle gates in your world, of course. If you have any tips or feedback or questions, do feel free to leave a comment, or if you want to share your creations, do feel free to send me a tweet. That's going to be awesome to see what you make of this. I hope you have a great rest of the day, and I hope to see you next time.